Nice job, buddy. Nice job. Rudy Barrios out of Austin, Texas.
On the marathon side, Iram J. How you feeling, buddy? That's a pretty good day in the office for you at 317-ish. Nice job, buddy. Nice job. Rudy Barrios.
Life is hard, and it can be unfair and cruel. When all hope seems lost and you feel like giving up, I hope Iram's story will lift you up and serve as an example for why we need to keep moving forward.
My name's Iram. I live in Austin, Texas. In November of 2010, I woke up in an ambulance. I had had a grand mal seizure, and after a biopsy, I was diagnosed with brain cancer. We had to do all kinds of tests, EEGs, MRIs, blood work, and through all that, I just kept running because that's kind of where things felt normal, where it was literally just one foot in front of the other. And I ended up actually putting off brain surgery to run a marathon because I didn't know there was going to be any more running after that. You know, it was a high-risk surgery, and I didn't know there was going to be life after that. I didn't know there was going to be running. So my doctor said, look, we're doing what we can, but odds are you're not going to make 40. You know, I'm 32 years old. For a while after the surgery, I was sitting there not happy with the way some things went. I was sitting there feeling sorry for myself and just had to stop running for a while. And then I met someone who also had brain surgery, and they had to relearn to walk and to talk, and they had gotten back to running. And I had met someone who had lost their leg because of cancer, and they were doing triathlons and races. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really have an excuse. These guys can do it when it's literally the muscles that you have to use for the event. Eventually, after I got back to running, and I won a couple of races, and I won a marathon with my daughter pushing a stroller, and I broke a 5-minute mile for the first time since high school. The reason I do the road races is because everything's kind of predictable. You know exactly what's going to come, you know exactly the distance. All the stuff that is so comforting about the road races literally goes out the window when you do the Spartan race. So there's no watch, you have no idea when the next turn is, you have no idea what the next obstacle is or when it's coming, which kind of feels more like life these days. No matter what the obstacle is, the one thing that was never negotiable was getting to the end, and I knew at the finish line that it was a lot of fun, but it kicked my ass. My friend actually gave me this shirt, which I love, which is kind of my life attitude. You know, there's a runner with the Grim Reaper behind him, and it says make him work for it. And I don't know how long I've got left. I'm not sure anybody does. You know, life's kind of unpredictable and ridiculous sometimes. But if death is coming for me, he's gonna have to work for it.
When you were first diagnosed with the terminal disease in 2010, I believe, what really kept you moving forward?
Well, luckily I was training for a marathon already. I was training for my second cycle of marathons, and this all started with a seizure on a Friday. Because it wasn't considered an emergency biopsy, the result of the biopsy wasn't going to be until Monday, so I just had to sit around the hospital. We had a poker game Saturday night, and I was just getting restless. So I asked the doctors if I could go running. They were like, what? Nobody's ever asked that before. And what they gave me permission to do, what I was supposed to do was run around the hospital, which was a little bit under a mile radius. And there was a nurse station at the front. I was running with a friend of mine who was in EMS, running with his cell phone. I had the IV in my hand just in case anything happened in my arm, just so I could sit there. And we ran one lap, and I think the poor nurse was just like, why am I stuck doing this? So we stopped after one lap, and I'm like, he's in the EMS. We've got our cell phones. He'll call you right away. And so she went back in, and as soon as she did, I went and ran the first 6 miles of the Austin Marathon course, the opening of the marathon. So I went down first and came back up Congress. And as soon as I started, my friend, he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm leaving. And he's like, okay. And so he stayed with me. We got back. I kept running. That was kind of where I get to be a little bit, at least aside from cancer, not away from it. I was able to tune out then. Since then, actually, that was in 2010. As recently as yesterday during the marathon, I actually don't keep track of like my PRs or my splits. I don't start my watch at most runs, and people ask that because I'm a guy who's qualified at Boston a few times. I broke a 5-minute mile until I was like 36, and most people who are my speed follow very strict regiments or cycles. And I had always done that before cancer, but after cancer, I stopped doing it. I've never gone back, and I think it's because I had to do blood work and this test and that test, and so I was already getting measured so many ways biologically that running was a place that I got to just do it just for however it felt. And for me, it's actually never about the time. My races are always like, oh, there's that guy, I gotta pass him, and that's kind of how I feel about cancer. It's just the Grim Reaper's coming for all of us, but I try to make him work for it.
What is your most memorable race to date then?
Well, so my most memorable race is, so I started doing so I put up Range Street to run a marathon. And that was the very first one that I qualified for Boston here on the Austin course. Turns out if you're not sure you're gonna have another one, you go pretty hard. But after that, I started running with my daughter, pushing her in a stroller. But then one day, I wasn't running with her, but one day in the middle of a run, they found me on the side of the road and had a seizure. So I stopped running with her just because I was afraid. The doctor said, look, it might happen, but it's probably not, just seizure are random. And she kept telling me that she missed it. And then at the Boston Marathon, my mom and her and my brother were out there watching, and my daughter was telling my grandma that she missed running, and so my mom said that she would do her first half marathon if I would run it with my daughter. And I had never run a race with my daughter, so I ended up running it with her. I had no goals. I started at the back, started passing people, and around mile 10, 11, somebody's like, you're in 4th place, right? And I'm like, what? So I'm pretty competitive. I start gunning, start trying to close, pass the guy in 3rd, pass the guy in 2nd about the 13-mile mark, and I came in 2nd by 5 seconds. Wow. And I left Kiana with my dad, and then the weather was getting really bad. It started hailing and windy, and I started running back, and I got back to the same water stop where they had told me that I was in 4th. I stretched a little bit, and I'm like, they were tearing it down. Like, what's going on? They're like, oh, there's no more racers. They all got on the bus. And I'm like, are you telling me my mom quit? And just as I thought that she was coming around the corner, and we ended up doing the last little bit together. And so she would be the very last half marathon finisher that day. So there's just so many memorable races. It's tough to pick one. I always say that my favorite race is the next one. And no matter how good or bad the last one was, you gotta be for the next one.
Oh, that's great. That's so well said. So I know you've always been a runner and you're very active in the local running community. Does running now take on a different meaning, or additional meaning for you?
Yeah, I mean, all my best friends are from the running community, and especially I used to always run with running groups, and I'd show up at different ones. I still do, but when the pandemic happened, just out of cautiousness, because a lot of the running groups were pausing, I would run with friends one-on-one, and we would just kind of run and meet, and we would do. And so some of my best friendships that were already solid got better out of that. And so to this day, there's a handful of friends that I just go and we meet them and we just run. And even when we're meeting groups, we're just talking and talk about our life or sports with the Cowboys. Oddly enough, 95% of the conversation isn't at all about running. So we're connecting about real life. Running is just the way we do it. So running has become not just a healthy thing for my brain and my heart, but it's become a healthy thing for my relationships.
What's keeping you busy these days then?
Well, I'm never not busy. I am always moving. I've yet to miss a day of running this year.
Oh.
We're at late February. I ran a marathon yesterday. I'm meeting up with friends. He calls it the Death March. What we do the run after, and so we're gonna go, and then afterwards we're gonna go grab some dinner, and so we'll slog 4 or 5 miles out. But so it's always running, and just kind of being part of the community. I love theater. I went to a play the night before the marathon and the night before. I try to find things that make me sit down so that I rest the legs. I'm not very good at sitting still, but I feel like if I pay for a ticket to something, then I'm like, oh, I gotta enjoy it. But so it's those kind of things. I've got a 17-year-old. Nowadays, she wants to hang out less with me than she wanted in the stroller days, and that's all right. Independence is exactly what I wanted to achieve. And so it's just always going. My idea of a good day, I get up at 5, go to bed at 11, and don't blink between the two. I'm never certain how much time I've got left, and I've had that attitude for a while. So it makes me both appreciate dreaming, but it also makes me appreciate now.
So what was your goal for this year's Austin Marathon?
Well, so I had 2 goals. I slacked off a little bit during the pandemic on my running. I kept running, but I stopped training. I stopped running as long, and I stopped doing speed work. So I didn't stop doing anything. So I hadn't run a marathon again until last year, so 2023, after the pandemic. It showed. And so last year on this exact same Austin Marathon course, I hit a 3:30 something, closer to 3:40, which the last time I had raced on there was in 2019, and I'd broken 3, so that was a massive slowdown. So I'm like, my first goal was to try to qualify for Boston was 3:10. That was going to be tight because last year was with some injuries. I tried to build up again. But I didn't hit that. The big goal was to go faster than my first marathon when I was 29. I'm 43 now, which was 3:19. I was on pace for Boston qualifier till about mile 20. My T-man tightened up. But I'm like, okay, the other one's not flexible. So I ended up hitting just around 3:17, give or take a few seconds. I don't actually look up my official results, just my watch. So I did not get the A goal. I got the B goal, but I'm pretty proud that at 43, I'm beating my 29-year-old self.